Vegas All-Net Radio, the final frontier of free speech.
Views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All-Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.
Tuesday afternoon in Las Vegas, VegasAllNetRadio.com. Time for the stars of VANR. Sitting in the hot seats today, Mr. Aaron Phillips, JP John Stiles, and the Cash Man, Ricky Cash. Good afternoon, guys.
Hello, Bobcat.
Hey, Bobcat, how are you? And welcome to this week's edition of Stars on Vegas All-Net Radio. Conspicuous by his absence, obviously on the video and in voice. Hopefully he'll be joining us here momentarily. Jeez Louise. Mr. Cash himself, he is tied up taking care of some station business, so he should be joining us momentarily here in the studio. Unfortunately, John, our scheduled guest, could not make it today.
So I heard.
And that was, hopefully we'll be able to reschedule Samantha from Vegas Rock Dog, whose show airs here on Saturday mornings. I think it's from 10 to 11. Is that right, Bobcat?
That is correct, sir.
All
she
right.
is here.
Got
yes.
it mesmerized.
Yes,
so,
got him.
Do you do that show, don't you?
Yes, I have a great time with
All right.
Sam and
I
her
was
husband,
looking
Jim.
forward to that.
Yeah, and I was listening to the playback of the July 4th episode. I've never heard such jocularity over dog poop. That was the topic of their show this past week.
I missed that because they did what we know in this business as a pre-record.
Yes. But it was on the rerun list this morning when I came in, and I was listening to it earlier this morning, and they had a good time talking about the different kinds of poop and what it means and whatnot. So hopefully we'll be able to reschedule Samantha in the coming weeks. So here's what we're doing for Plan B. The first,
we have a Plan B?
Well, at least we have a Plan B for something, John.
Thank God.
We started this off with the very first show, kind of talking about the three of us, how we purchased the station and what we hope to accomplish over the course of time and the growth and our plans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Mr. Cash comes running into my office literally about 15 minutes ago saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to interview each other over the coming weeks. I said, interview each other? I said to him,
what, is he nuts?
I said, there isn't a question you and I could ask each other that would surprise anybody. I said, because we've known each other for so long. So
I might be able to think of a few.
Well, you might, because you've only known us for just about a year now. So that's why what we're going to change it up a little bit. We asked Bobcat, who's actually going to put on his interviewer hat today with you, JPEG. And when Mr. Cash comes in, he'll join in the fray. And I am in the hot seat today. And subsequently, then Mr. Cash will get his turn, and then, John, you'll have your turn where we put you guys in the hot seat. And we may mix up the hosts a little bit throughout this transition, which is one of the reasons why Bobcat is going to be involved in the interviewing today, because because of our Thursday night show, and we've worked with Bobcat now for over 2 years, he knows me on some level.
Yes.
But he doesn't. He may come up with questions because he doesn't know me as me,
right?
That Cash may not come up with, or you may not come up with, because you obviously you and I over the last year have become good friends. So that's why we're going to throw a pair of fresh eyes into the situation.
And you know what we could do too?
What's that?
You could ask Bobcat and I questions about you.
About me?
To see if we know the answer.
Right. That'll be like the newlywed game, right? So now if you out there listening have a question about me, 702-483-4444 is our number. And, of course, Skype line's available at Vegas All-Net Radio. Before I forget, I want to give kudos to the previous show, the Jacobs Lab. They had two great guests on today.
Yeah, fantastic.
But the second guest, if you miss it, you have to pick it up on the archives. Rudy Rudiker, the Rudy Rudiker from the movie Rudy. Tremendous interview and storytelling and his experiences. I didn't realize he was, one of 17 kids? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that's correct. 17
children. And just an amazing story, and obviously the majority of the audience has probably watched Rudy on some level, because it's not so, it's based around Notre Dame football, but it's not about football. It's about relationships. It's about persevering. It's about reaching your goals and aims and whatnot, and such a great inspirational movie. And anyway, so you got to listen to that. That's when it hits podcast in the next day or so. Please do so for sure. So I have to give kudos. The Jacobs Ladder folks, they get some great people. I mean, I want their black book when they're done so we can get some of them on Vegas Unwrapped, which is a little segue. This is a cheap plug. This Thursday, on Vegas Unwrapped is Kelly and Rick Dale. They are the owners of Rick's Restoration, as featured on the History Channel, which also got its big break during the Pawn Stars shows with the Harrison family. They do all kinds of restorations. Cash was watching some of the YouTube stuff this morning to kind of prep for the show on Thursday, and even he was amazed at some of the stuff that they can really restore and bring back to life. So, and I know it's going like wildfire on Twitter. They're retweeting my posts about the show and on Facebook. So that they'll be on with us this Thursday in our first hour by 7:15.
I had a good friend of mine, Mr. Andy Martello, that had a phone booth done from them.
Really?
Restoration of a $6,000 old school phone booth that they put together.
You mean one of the old wooden ones, like in the Superman cartoon?
Yeah, and it had the actual fan that had the leather blades on it and everything else. And what a great job that Andy did with that and
that's
with
tremendous.
those fine folks.
Yeah, that's tremendous. So they'll be on Thursday. We're excited about that. That's this Thursday, July 9th on Vegas Unwrapped. So with that, I kind of hesitantly throw the show over to you guys because now I have to change gears to answering questions instead of asking questions.
I got to give myself – I'm still, to be honest with you, I'm still trying to wipe a tear out of my eye. I really am. Well, you know, we have our share of celebrities that make their way through here. And I've been around it and really don't get starstruck too bad. And I just got to say that what a great interview. You mentioned this with the Jacobs, but Rudy Rudiker, what an inspiration.
Absolutely.
Still to this day, being close to 55 years of age, when I see him make that tackle, or the Aston kid that played Rudy in
Sean
the movie,
Astin.
that did that, and of course we know Rudy actually did it, but when he made that tackle, man, it's still a tear comes to my eye when I see that. So it's a great
you still get goosebumps.
Yes, I do.
Certain movies just have that impact where you could see it over and over and over and over, and the same scene, the same storyline, and you know what's going to happen, but you still react in an emotional way to the plot or the story. That shows you how powerful the movie is.
And still,
I don't watch it anymore.
You can't watch
it?
Nah, I cry all the time.
I was really surprised that Notre Dame gave them all the grief that they gave him about it, and also to this date, it is the #1 sports movie of all time.
It ranks right up there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Absolutely. All right, fellas, I'm throwing it your way. I'm in the hot seat.
I get the first question.
You get the. I noticed Bobcat pointed at you right away.
Coward.
No, I'm just waiting to see where you go. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, my first question is,
yes.
How tall are you, Aaron?
With or without shoes on? With or without
care. Pick
hair.
one.
I'm 6'2".
That's all?
That's it.
No.
All righty.
I'm 6'2", eyes of blue.
All right. Why radio? Why did you just? I guess let me go to this. What did you start off to be in your business profession? What did you want to do in your professional life?
Well, growing up as a Jewish young boy whose grandparents and parents want you to be a doctor or a lawyer, I didn't want to be a lawyer.
You're Jewish?
I am Jewish.
Wow.
I have the cut to show it. But anyway, to prove it, I should say. So I went to college. I went to Penn State actually thinking I was going to become a doctor. So I started that path. Couldn't mate those damn fruit flies. I hated those fruit flies. So I got out of that, went to accounting, which is another backup in the Jewish community for the Jewish sons. You're either doctor, lawyer, or accountant.
Okay.
Because I love numbers. Anyway, P.S., I graduated with a degree in a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics with a business support option. So I took a lot of business support classes like business law, logistics, economics, statistics, all that stuff. Today, I'm using nothing but adding, subtracting, multiplying, division. But, hey, I got a degree in Bachelor of Science. Now, if I had my 4 years to do over again, I would go into communications, no question, because I just like the stage of presentation. I've been blessed with my mom's personality, my dad's stature, and it makes for a great presence on the stage. And through my years of being in Kiwanis International, I had an opportunity to be a state officer, once in New Jersey, once here. So I've spoken in front of groups as small as 5 to as big as 5,000. And I have to say, I'm humbled by the successes that I've created in radio, but how I got into this media, I answered an ad on Craigslist.
Really?
8 years ago to be the color commentator for Junior Golden Gloves boxing. A production company had done the videotaping. They fired the guy who they originally hired on site. So they had 6 weeks worth of this boxing. So they hired a play-by-play guy and they hired a color guy. So I went and I auditioned, and the audition was at like Starbucks on Buffalo and Lake Mead, 6:30 at night. I brought a tape. He gave me a sample script to read, He says, you're great. He says, just bring 2 suits. Here's the address. Tomorrow we'll see you. So after the 6 weeks of production, or it was really 3 weeks, we taped 2 shows per week. My partner at the time, Rich Perez, who you guys know, we've done some work with him here at VANR. He was the play-by-play guy. And we had such a blast because he's a professional sports guy in his background, and I'm just your average fan of sports. And I said to him it would be a lot of fun to do a show together where you would give the professional approach and take on things, and I would give you the Monday morning quarterback style of the average Joe as my take. And 8 years ago, we launched the Sports Zoo, ironically, on KLAV, and I've been bitten ever since. It's my passion, and I knew from the get-go when that show was done and Cash and I launched Vegas Unwrapped, I knew we had something with Vegas Unwrapped, and ultimately owning the station was kind of, for me, was the end-all, be-all with the radio opportunity that created itself. So that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am, and it just became a passion. When I got the break to do the sports thing, I thought I hit a home run. You know, here I am. I'm a sports guy. Even though my knowledge of boxing was about 30 days in a boxing gym, fortunately I knew a hook and a jab and a cross and an uppercut enough to fluff it as a color guy because then I get to watch the replays and talk about it.
Right.
And then when we launched the sports show and I got to talk about sports, really just the passion then just got embedded because I realized behind this thing called a microphone, I could create this whole other world for myself. It was like my night at the bowling alley with the boys. Huh? When that door closes in the studio, no one can touch me. The bill collectors get ignored. The phone calls get ignored. Nobody can touch me in what we do in a studio. And the passion for that just has really escalated since then. So,
John?
Yeah, that's me.
He's got the name badge to prove it. No, he doesn't. He doesn't know who he is.
Well, we're on the radio. Nobody can see it. Yeah,
I see.
So you and Ricky have been friends for, 18 years?
Yeah, going on 19 years, yeah.
And I know that this is supposed to be about you.
That's okay.
But
he's as much of what makes me up as I make him up, too.
And that was my point.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between you two. What's the one thing that you would like all of our listeners to know about Ricky Cash?
Oh, my God. Just one thing?
Just one thing. That's all you get. Only one. So it better be good.
And I know he's listening with his guest in the office,
be careful,
too.
He's listening.
Although he brought his own cart today. I would say his loyalty as a friend. Okay? I mean, if he adopts you as a friend, okay, and it takes a while to get there with him because he has to earn your trust.
Right. I still have to pay him.
You still have to pay him. Okay. His wife Cammie still pays me. I just she just doesn't know she doesn't have to anymore. But once he befriends you, his loyalty towards you is unconditional, and he expects it in return, and rightfully so. If he's giving it, he's expecting it back, and that's the way a friendship should be.
Exactly.
And I have to throw this fluff out there for the listeners who listen to Vegas Unwrapped and everything else. What you hear are shenanigans between Cash and I. It's part of the show. Now, have we had our arguments? Every family has their arguments. Brothers argue. Everybody argues. And we've had some knock 'em out, drag 'em out discussions over 19 years. But the bottom line is, as friends, you're going to get through that. And we've gotten through it to the point where, if I can say it this way, and he'll probably come busting down the door any moment to
call you a liar.
Call me a liar. But with all of that still aside, the hardest person to go into business with is family and friends. It's the hardest.
Yeah.
Because you sometimes feel you can't say or do things, or that friendship or the love or the this or the that. But the fact that we have overcome so much and have dreamt for 19 years about how we were going to be successful as partners in something, the fact that we chose to go into business with each other should answer that question in terms of the loyalty that goes back and forth between the two of us. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Loyalty is great. Loyalty can burn you. But you got to be willing to take the good with the bad in a friendship when it comes to loyalty. So.
Okay, now a follow-up to that question.
Mm-hmm.
What would Ricky Cash want the audience to know about you?
Oh, my God, don't piss me off. That's probably what he would say. No, wow. What would Cash say about me to let the audience know? Probably something very, very similar to that, the unconditional support of friendship that I give back to him no matter what. So probably in that same arena. I mean, look, he's 20 years my senior. That's no secret. And we go out to places as family and we go to dinner or whatever, and literally people come up and ask us if we're brothers. One time, and this is God's honest truth, they thought he was my father, and I joke about him being my grandfather in public, you know. But I think ultimately he would probably say the same thing about unconditional friendship, unconditional love as friends, and how important that is for him as well. So,
I would agree. And I think it's about that time that we should let our sponsors do their thing.
We can certainly do that. You're listening to the stars of VANR today.
I hate being on this side of the microphone. I just thought I would say that.
Hey, we're just getting started, man.
Yeah,
I'm saving the good questions for later.
That's it. In the hot seat today, he is one of the current brand new owners of this radio station and this network. Is Mr. Aaron Phillips. We'll be back more with him right after this.
Welcome back to Stars of VANR, Vegas AllNet Radio. And today we are interviewing the illustrious Mr. Aaron Phillips.
Illustrious?
Illustrious.
Am I that bright?
Yeah. In fact, rumor has it that you are so bright, your parents used to call you son.
Yes, that is a true fact. They've been calling me that now for 51 years, and
Wow.
It's just a name I can't shake.
51 years.
51 years.
Dude, you're getting up there.
I'm catching up.
Didn't you just recently have a birthday?
I did this past Sunday. That's what got me to 51.
Wow.
That's right, July 5.
Which area were you in when you had that birthday?
What do you mean, which area?
Never mind.
Area 51? I was back in New Jersey when Area 51 years ago is where I was born.
Cool.
Back in Jersey.
After you?
Well, you know, everybody.
He's taking notes. He's writing
No,
down.
I'm just sort of following along, so I don't ask.
Don't follow along. Just go,
right,
man.
Well, here it is. You know, what would our listeners like to know about you besides all the antics that you do with all of us on Vegas Unwrapped, and of course now you're that. But what would the listeners like to know about Aaron Phillips?
Wow. Let's see. I started my radio career at a little radio station in Hazlitt, New Jersey. I bartered with the owner. I had my own credit and collection business at the time. And I bartered. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll run out and collect your bills for you, your receivables. You teach me the radio business. So I did the last hour of drive time morning every day, and Monday nights I did a sports recap show. WCNJ with the good songs come out to play. 88.9, 91.9 here on your FM dial out of Hazlitt, New Jersey. The cheesy FM voice had to be used. And let's see what else. I used to officiate football here in town. I was a high school on down to the Pee Wee League official. Used to do that. Former Kiwanian, married 26 years. Twin daughters who just graduated college. Went to Penn State, originally from New Jersey. Yankee Giant fan. Another reason Cash and I get along so well. He's a Mets and Jets fan.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a tough question because I would hope if somebody had a particular question about me that they'd want to know. Oh, I'm a big wrestling fan. As if people remember when we interviewed Bob Backlund, I've been following wrestling since 1978-ish. But my first real memory was when Backlund beat superstar Billy Graham in Madison Square Garden. Played football in high school, played varsity tennis. People ask me when I went to Penn State if I played football there because, I mean, I am 6'2", and my weight's a little bit higher than it should be. And the answer is no. Always seems to surprise people that I did not play football. I played intramural sports there, but believe it or not, I was too small to play for Penn State at the time. And I was coming out of high school. I played defensive line, long snapper, and they were converting me to tight end at the time. And,
wow.
Yeah, and coming out of high school, as much as I went to Penn State, I was actually too small to play football there.
Real quickly before you go, he said wrestling. If you were a pro wrestler, would you like to be the good guy or the heel?
Oh, in my nature, I would probably be the John Cena version, the good guy, just because it's my nature. Excuse me. My nature is to be a good guy to people. I don't know that I could pull off the heel very well unless somebody really pisses me off, then I could be really mean at people. But I would probably be a babyface.
Babyface.
Yeah.
Unless we hooked him up with the #1 assassin.
Yeah. There you go. If the assassin wants me with a mask, hey, I'm there. I'm in his corner.
You'd go for it.
I can imagine a tag team with him and the assassin.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would
Cash,
be a lot of fun.
Cash would not like that at all.
I was going to
say. Cash knows what he's got coming.
That would be his ultimate nightmare.
You'd have to give him a 2-week head start.
Yeah, exactly. Even then, we'd still catch up to him.
So, yes. That was what I was going to say.
Okay.
But
very informative.
You went down the wrestling road, and what attracted you to wrestling in the beginning? I mean, what you said you saw Bob Backlund beat Billy Graham at Madison Square Garden. Was that the moment that you said, "Wow, this is cool. I like this"?
No, I'll tell honestly, what attracted me to wrestling when as I was growing up as a youngster, and I'm saying probably before I was 10, I was a Mets fan. My grandfather, who I loved dearly, my mom's dad. I was blessed. My grandparents lived next door to me, so they were part of my everyday life like my parents were. I didn't have that typical 3-hour drive to go visit grandma and grandpa. So I grew up a Mets fan. And then my dad was a Yankee fan, mid-'70s, when I started getting attracted to baseball. And I saw the Yankees and the Reds in the World Series in the mid-'70s. And then I saw the Reds and the Red Sox, and I was attracted to the American League. And my dad, not that he converted me, but I began following the Yankees because it was my dad.
Right.
Okay.
I understand that.
Then comes wrestling. My dad was watching. Now, please, keep in mind, for those who don't follow wrestling, professional wrestling, in the mid-'70s, before Hulk Hogan got involved and really turned the wrestling into more of that entertainment value, it was wrestling.
Yes.
Okay. So my dad was into it, and I started following it because of him. And we followed it enough back east that when he got these tickets to go to Madison Square Garden to see it live, I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's go. Let's hop on that train, go to MS. And I couldn't have been, what was it? I was 14 at the time. And we're going down to the Garden underneath MSG with the trains. And it was just one of those things I started getting involved with because of my dad. And it was just something that connected my dad and I together. Not that my dad and I have a bad relationship in any way, shape, or form, but it's just one of those things that just gave us something else to talk about. We always talked about the Yankees. We talk about wrestling. Even to this day, my dad claims he doesn't follow it anymore, but yet every time he comes over and I'll start talking about wrestling, oh, that garbage, he says, but then he knows the storyline, right. So it's like, okay, yeah, Dad, whatever. But we went to a live event back in March. Myself and my wife and Cash's buddy Ted and my dad. I asked my dad to go, and we went to the live event that was held at Mandalay Bay back in March, and it was fun. It was fun because I was with my dad, and it was like old times, And so that's how I kind of got into it, and I just stayed with it because there's a lot of real aspects of wrestling. We know it's storyline, we get all of that stuff, but for just the pure entertainment, folks, if you take it for what it's worth,
right?
Even Cash is coming out as a closet wrestling fan now, that he's asking about the matches, and that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, and when I first started wrestling, or first started watching wrestling, was back in the late 50s, early 60s.
You can't compare what you saw to what's going on today.
I mean, we had Carpentier and Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George, and, absolutely. You had Bruno Sammartino.
Pencil neck geeks.
Freddie Blassie. But at that time, they had wrestling territories.
That's correct.
And you had the AWA, NW. You had all of the different factions, and every one of them had their own stars that when they crossed over to the other areas, it was a big deal.
Right.
They don't have that anymore. Obviously, it's just one big. I mean, they have the smaller. Like here in town, we have Future Stars of Wrestling, Ring of Honor's big, nationally. So there are smaller circuits or smaller companies. But when you knew it in the 50s and the 60s, it was nothing like it is today with the single landscape of wrestling.
I have another friend that's also a big wrestling fan, and he's fond of saying that wrestling is a soap opera for men. Because that's
1,000%.
Yeah,
1,000% correct. And what's interesting is it's not just for men. Now we're seeing the youngsters because they have their heroes who they like, who they don't like.
Right.
A lot of women because they want to see the hard bodies of the wrestlers. So it's not like it used to be where it was just for the guys.
Right.
But you're right. That's pretty much what wrestling is. Soap opera for men. That's 100% correct.
Yeah, and I think as long as you keep that in mind, it is fun.
Absolutely. Keep it in perspective.
Right.
And I think you're all good.
We'll do one more. If you could wrestle anyone, who would you like to get into the squared circle?
Mr. Cass. No, it's funny you say that because just for the opportunity to meet this individual, I would like to meet Hulk Hogan in the ring. Absolutely. Just because, you have this bucket list of people that you'd like to meet someday. Right. Jerry Lewis is on that list for me. Okay. There are others. And Hulk Hogan, whose real name, and I'm not letting something out that people don't know, Terry Bollea, I would just like to sit down and chat with the guy, not an interview. Look, we met Bob Backlund. I was like a kid in a candy store that I'm picking him up at the hotel, bringing him here. We're chatting. We're this. He sends me emails every once in a while. How's it going in it? But I would love to just, for the opportunity to get into the ring, playfully run around, chase me, pin me, leg drop me. I don't care. I would go in with Hogan.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we'd like to welcome Mr. Cash.
Mr. Cash has made
now.
it.
Finally,
now I have to stop lying
his
about him.
Taken care of. So
now I have to stop lying.
Just a quick note before you go to break. When you told me that Bob Backlund was going to come on Vegas Unwrapped, and I really did not have much of a frame of reference other than what John was saying. Back in the day, Gorgeous George.
Right.
I knew the names, but I didn't know anything about it. But of course, having to do Vegas Unwrapped, I did my homework.
Yeah, you did.
So I went back and I looked and I found just what you were just talking about, the different sections and how the South was fighting the East and it brought.
Well, it wasn't the Hatfield McCoys.
No, it wasn't. but it was a pretty.
There were territorial
there was
issues.
Some rivalries for sure.
Absolutely.
And it brought about, and I'm a history guy, so it brought about where it came from, and that obviously stirred interest in me. And then after talking to Bob Backlund, that was great. And then, of course, with the #1 assassin, that was out of this world. And I have been following. Just last week I watched the match, and I was complaining that Seth Rollins, who's the champion, can't win without having help.
Right.
And of course it's all theatrical and staged. But I'm talking like. Hey, like I know
he's
something.
One of the boys
like
now
I know
wrestling.
something. So I thank you for that because you pushed the envelope and.
Well, I had no choice. I had to watch the matches at your house.
And but I got better because of it, and that's good.
Good stuff.
So I guess we're interviewing Mr. Phillips, huh?
Yep, I got the.
Actually, we're
check.
going to a break, and then when we come back, we'll do some more interviews. How about that?
Sounds great.
In the hot seat today on Stars of VANR. One of the three principal owners of this brand new network, Mr. Aaron Phillips. Back at it. Jay Peg, Ricky Cash is joining us. Yours truly, the Bobcat. Guys, it's all you.
I thought you were the principal.
I was a principal.
That's what I thought.
But I'm not the cheese.
Okay. Well,
You're
I think
cheese.
that Bobcat and I have kind of had a monopoly on the first half of the show. Maybe we'll let you ask a question now.
All right. The most influential person in your life. Tell us a little. Well, I know. Tell us a little bit about her, and and tell us how your life basically changed after she passed away.
I was going to say my grandfather, but no.
Your grandfather was a she?
Well, before Caitlin.
That's right. That's right.
Before Bruce.
When you are growing up, you hope to have parents that you can be friendly with, not just be the parents. And trust me, I mean, my dad was a disciplinarian. He chased me one time with the size 13 hard sole moccasin one time. One time. That's all I needed was one time with that shoe. Got the belt once, but he was the guy who walked tall and carried a big stick. My mom, on the other hand, may she rest in peace, she was the personality. That's where I get my personality from. My dad, I got my dad's stature. I got my dad's stubbornness. I got my dad's, I'll keep it caved in until I'm ready to explode. And then when I explode, I have somebody back east who always used to say, you don't want to be within 100 miles of me when I explode. And but my mom was a dancer in the Catskills. So some of the pictures with some of the entertainers up there, Nipsey Russell and some of the greats that used to entertain up there. When my mom walked into a room, she lit up the room. People knew she was there. She was the person in charge. She was the social director. She got everything going. When Gloria walked in, nobody fucks with her, period. Listen, she's up in heaven right now. I would say God only knows what's going on, but I don't even know if God knows what's going on right now. She probably does. So she and my dad, and mostly, growing up, it was my mom who I can talk to, because my dad wasn't the easiest person to talk to because he had that hard shell finish, And 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago, come November, my mom passed, and I had to become, at the age of 36, 15, 51, 36.
See, those math classes paid off, right?
Paid off, right. I did it all in my head. I had to become the patriarch of the family, because my dad, God love him, he had his own business for many years, and there were just some things that my dad was rough around the edges with. And I had to learn skills that I think I got from my mother that I didn't know I had until I had to go with him to the bankruptcy attorney and deal with those kind of things, right, and whatnot.
You certainly didn't have to use those skills prior to that, is really a good point.
Yeah, I didn't need to, because my mom was in charge of everything. My dad just worked. He relaxed when he came home. He gave mom his paycheck and money, and figured all was being taken care of. And so my mom handled all of that stuff. And the reason they had to file bankruptcy, my mom had surgery just before they came out of here. She had a bypass through her leg, and hundreds of thousands. Like the most reason most people file bankruptcy is medical.
Right.
And my parents fell into that.
Over 70% by the latest standards.
Yeah. And but so my dad didn't have to deal with that stuff. My mom always did. And my dad is a street guy. He was from Newark, New Jersey area, graduated from Weequahic High School, I think it was. I know we always get into this argument where he graduated from. But my dad was not the guy who could stand up and be the professional guy to talk to an attorney or a doctor, right, without, again, I say this with all due respect, without a little Archie Bunker coming out of him, because he can be rough and loud. So I had to go with him, and I did all those things as his son, and I don't want to say as caretaker, because my biggest nightmare my worst fear for him, which ended up being my worst fear for my wife and I, would have been that my dad would have had to move in with us, because we would not have been able to find a place for him. But 15 years later, if you ask me the follow-up question now, right, because I've been asked this at meetings I go to, and I do my presentations where people want to get to know me, they ask, who's your hero? Okay? Today, I probably say my dad is. Because what he has come through in 15 years, to lose your wife after 36 years, under a dark cloud, for reasons I'm not going to go into here, that he found a significant other about 6 months later that, quite frankly, is cut from the same cloth my mother was, who lost her husband like 8 months before my mom passed. They've been together ever since, and she helped create a life for him. They've gone to Hawaii, they've gone to Israel, they've gone through the Panama Canal, they've gone to Alaska. I've seen a side of him in 15 years, even towards my daughters as a grandfather, especially Radar, that, quite frankly, I wish was there the first 36 years.
Yeah.
So growing up, it was my mom till she passed, and the skills and the personality and the outwardness and everything else I attribute to her. But today, hero, dictionary, my life is my dad, because, I mean, my mom passed at 58. He was 58. Their birthdays are 2 days apart. And now I'm 51. It's getting very surreal that I'm entering that range where my mom lost her life. Now it's, thank God my dad is 71. He's living a full life, little aches and pains, or 73, 73 years old. Aches and pains, which are expected at 73, and what he did physically in his early life. But, that's, first it was my mom, and now that it's my dad for different reasons.
Is it surprising to you at all that after lifting cases of salsa, that his back isn't the main problem in his life?
You got a picture. You guys remember the old spritz bottles of seltzer, right?
Right.
12 of those bottles in a wood crate is how they're delivered. Mm-hmm. Now, my dad had, for 25 years, he and my grandfather and his uncle and everybody else, they had a business of home delivery of beverages, sodas, seltzers, and the whole thing. And on a whole nother side note, I can tell you about the story of how I almost met my wife 12 times from the age of 9 on up before actually meeting her in Connecticut. But my dad would schlep a case of seltzer up on his shoulder like this, and down on his other hand, he would carry a case of soda, which was 16 bottles in the plastic crate, just like it was nothing. That's why my dad is in such great physical shape for a guy who's 73, because he would carry probably 60, 80 pounds worth of beverages on his shoulder and in his hands. And I'll throw this out there. My wife's family growing up was a customer of my dad's. And my wife Robin would always look forward to the soda man is coming every 2 weeks to see my dad with his shirt rolled up to his biceps, and he's carrying the seltzer and soda down the steps. And my wife, she loved waiting for the soda man. I mean,
your father sounds a lot like what mine was, that he did have a little bit of that Archie Bunker into him, and he was a bar and restaurant. I watched my dad sling a full barrel. Now, you know what? Remember, not a half barrel,
right.
A full barrel of beer,
sure.
Okay? In that metal container, which weighed about 175 pounds, and the guys would be huffing and puffing off the beer truck, and my dad would just sling it up on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, young whippersnappers don't know what work's about. Let me show you, boys.
I'll tell you, he just, and again, it's not that he's not smart, not that he's not intelligent. And again, in the 15 years since Mom's passed, he's had to do things on his own that he never had to do because Mom took care of it. So the transformation I've seen, and I wrote a post about it on Father's Day on my Facebook page about, how proud I am of how far he's come in the 15 years since my mom has passed. And there's no question that, and I don't mean it to sound cheesy or cliche, but my dad is my hero because how I've seen him transition from the devastating loss of my mom, the position it put him in for years after he passed. And Cash was right by my side going through all of this because the morning at 4:33, November 22nd, 2000, that I got the phone call and I had to run down to VANR Hospital on Sahara near Decatur. 5 minutes later, because I called my buddy here, I said, my mom's gone, and he was immediately there at the hospital. And he saw me down the hallway, sitting on the floor crying, and he gave me my space. It would have been too easy for him to come over and start consoling me.
Yeah.
But he gave me I was probably, 25 yards down the hallway, away from my mom's room, because my dad, my wife, and Ricky was standing there by my mom's room. Earlier that day, or the day before, I had gone to my mom right before a show. We were doing a show on a Tuesday night that night. Or no, it was a Kiwanis meeting.
Right.
And my mom, for the first time in nearly 2 months, had a voice. She had a trach, and they were teaching her how to speak by putting your finger, and I heard her voice. So from her hospital bed, I called my sister. I said, Sandy, I got somebody who wants to speak to you, and I handed my mom the cell phone. And for the first time in 2 months, my sister heard my mom's voice. Day later, she was gone.
Wow.
Crazy.
Day later, she was gone. So, anyway, didn't mean to bring it down, but that's the story he wanted.
I wanted to hear it again.
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
It's very
just roll through. No break.
Roll through.
Roll
no
through.
break.
Just go.
No
through.
break. Okay.
Alrighty.
No, roll through. We got 10 minutes.
We apologize to all of our sponsors, but we'll make it up.
I'll make it up to. Well, it's our
It's
we'll
our
make it
show.
up to.
It's our station.
Damn it!
You know,
we're gonna do what we want to do,
or get over it.
Get over it. Send your comments to Vegas Unwrapped. Anyway, so that's that's the long version.
One quick question.
Sure.
That really relates to what we played at the beginning of the show about our opinions or the opinions or these
the
are
disclaimer.
The guests. Yeah. Since we own the station, doesn't our opinions reflect those of the owners? So
technically, no.
Okay.
Well, for you, maybe.
Yes, for you. I know where you're coming from.
Okay. But based on how
Ricky
we
Cash, Aaron
signed the
Phillips?
papers, no, it's not the same people. We had to go legality on that standpoint.
I hear you. Okay.
So those other two boneheads can shut us down.
No, that was it. I just wanted to, I was thinking about that. I thought, well, okay, well, yeah.
No.
What made you come to Las Vegas?
My mom.
Your mom?
Witness protection
program.
No, that was me.
That was him. No, here's what happened. I was born and raised in a town in New Jersey called Linden. My wife was born and raised in a town 5 miles down the road. Okay, everybody knew me as Pearl and Sam's grandson, who my grandfather, may rest in peace, was a police officer, retired in 1948, then opened up an upholstery shop with my grandmother, right on the corner of where we lived. Okay, so they knew me as their grandson. Then they knew me as Gloria and Larry's son. So it wasn't until I went off to college that I started getting my own identity as who I needed to be. Okay? So we had a very close relationship. Now, enter my wife. My wife's parents were divorced. We had a little bit of a rocky transition getting to our wedding because of the relationships. The school district where we were living in Linden, my daughters were 3 years old, going on 4, believe it or not. I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago. And we really didn't want the kids growing up in that school district because it was starting to take a dive. My wife being an educator, we were looking for opportunities. And we knew the growth of Las Vegas. My parents have been out here a handful of times. God is my witness. If I'm lying, I'm dying to you. I asked my wife said to me one thing at the end of our discussions, and we discussed this for a while. She made a statement. She said, and I quote, and we can get her on the phone. She'll cop to it. I would be more miserable being 2,500 miles away from your mother than my own mother. Think about that. She was so close to my mother. They bowled on Monday nights together. They chatted. We lived next door to each other, the whole thing. So I turned to her and I said, look, babe, I played football in high school. I may have gotten hit on the head a few times too many. But if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is I could put 2,500 miles between me and my mother-in-law? When is the truck fucking coming? I'm packing faster than you can shake a stick at. God is my witness. That was the final thing. The Clark County School District had gone out to Newark Airport. They set up in the hotels there for interviews. As soon as she got the first call, we accepted it, packed the truck. A 56-footer was parked between my house and my parents' house because I had the estate of my grandparents. I bought the house so that my kids would have my parents next to them. It was such a surreal sight to see that 56-foot moving truck packing up my parents' house and my house at the same time, because I never thought I was going to leave New Jersey. One time I thought we would move to Florida because I had family down there. Maybe we'd move to Florida, but that quickly passed. And Vegas is where my parents wanted to come out. My wife's teaching career needed to blossom, and really for the first time in our lives, we moved because of her career. We had always moved because of mine. I figured, I was working for a national payroll company. They transferred me out here. They had an opening in the office out here. I had a job waiting for me. I had to pay for the move because it was my request. But that's what brought us out here. It was just a family thing. Quality of life move is the way we categorize it.
There you go. The 5 top questions right here. Mr. Cash, the microphone is all yours, sir.
All right, Mr. Phillips. Let's
Cinderfella.
Let's give you some of your own medicine. All right, let's start with the movie industry. All right, what is your all-time favorite movie?
Man, it's close between Fiddler on the Roof and Cinderfella, but for the pure comedy genius, I have to go with Cinderfella with Jerry Lewis.
Okay, he loves Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, that's why he's on my bucket list. I want to meet him before I die. Before he dies. It's probably quicker.
When I was living in house number, my neighbor across the street was Jerry Lewis's granddaughter.
Yeah.
But we were never able to get that hookup where he could have met Jerry in person.
Adam West would be another guy on my wish list that I'd like to at least talk to. Yeah. Batman, because I'm a Batman geek.
Okay, so let's go with who's your favorite actor. Now, again, I know. Who's your favorite actor that
it's not Jerry Lewis
that you'd like to be like? Maybe that's a good
Tom
question.
Hanks.
Tom Hanks has always got good stuff.
I think Tom Hanks. He's never really made a bad movie. There were just some not as great as others. Mm-hmm. I mean, but I think Tom Hanks for me would be the guy.
And who is now? I'm going to give a little side to this question. Who is your favorite actress that you would lust over?
Leave it to Cash to always go there.
Oh my God! I really like Sandra Bullock. I really do. If she had red hair, that would be icing on the cake. Because I do have a soft spot for natural auburn red hair.
Very good. Very good. All right, let's talk a little music. Mm-hmm. All right, now, besides Kiss, who is your favorite group?
It's funny you say that because I really don't have a favorite group. I like all kinds of music, pretty much A to Z. I'm not a fan of country. I'm not a fan of classical, but I'll listen to ABBA to ZZ Top. I'll listen to all of that. I grew up that way. I did grow up on big band. Mm-hmm. Because of my dad. Every Sunday morning listened to a station in New York called WNEW that every Sunday morning played the big band.
And Sinatra.
And Sinatra and Benny Goodman and Perry Como and Dean Martin, all of those guys. And I like that stuff, too.
I have a healthy respect for him because he knows my era. So that's pretty cool.
That's how I became friends with Tony Martini.
Right.
Yeah. When I met him at Timeshare, we sat down and we started talking, and I think he was impressed with the fact that although he was and is old enough to be my grandfather, we were able to sit and talk about the same music genre, and I think he was impressed by that.
Well, he's really old enough to be your dad.
He's 83.
Well, so
my dad is 73.
So he would that would only be a 10-year difference.
You're old enough to be my grandfather.
I'm old enough to be your great-grandfather. All right, so who is your favorite singer, individual singer?
Oh, boy.
Male.
Wow. You know, you would think for the guy who usually asks these questions, I would have my answers prepared just in case.
You would think.
But don't think. You know, I could go as – I mean, there are a lot – I hate to say this, but there are a lot of Barry Manilow songs I grew up on that are classic that I learned early on in my life. Mm-hmm. But again, you know what? I like all music across the board. I like Queen. I like Freddie Mercury. I like Bono from U2. I mean, it's really hard to pick one. And the same thing, you're going to go with the female. I'm going to give you the same answer because I like the music across the board.
So I'll
skip that one because we're running out of time, too.
I know. Hey, program guy.
I know.
I've been listening for 6.5 years.
Habits are tough to break.
So tell me, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now.
Oh, boy.
I know it. See, but I also know the answer to this. What would you like to be doing?
My answer is going to surprise you.
It is because I know. Okay.
What do you think my answer is?
In the broadcast booth of the Yankees.
Well, that's my ultimate goal.
Okay.
But I'd be a rabbi.
Because you'd be a hell of a lot better than what they got going on now.
Great. Thanks. I'd be a rabbi.
Wait. You got something against the current rabbi?
No, against the current guys. Okay, last question. All right.
2 last questions. What's your favorite and what's your least favorite?
You know, guys, all right. Favorite curse word?
Shit.
One that you really don't like?
Cunt.
Exactly. Okay.
And that's coming from a guy's perspective.
Yep.
Right? I'm sorry I hate to say that.
No, I'm with you, too. I feel the same way. Okay, real quick. You're at the pearly gates. Opens the door. What would you like God to say? What would you like God to say to you?
You're DED. Dead. Now get in here.
Oy vey.
I love it. Oy vey is right.
Stars on VANR appears each and every Tuesday from 3 to 4 o'clock. In the hot seat today, one of the 3 principals right here, Mr. Aaron Phillips. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
Good stuff.
There you go.
Get me on the other side of the microphone. Hurry up,
There you go. Vegas Unwrapped coming at you Thursday night. For Ricky Cash, JPEG, yours truly, the Bobcat here. Have a great afternoon. Keep listening. More great shows, more great stuff right here at the brand new VNR. Have a great day, everybody.